All right, it is 10 p.m. in Salt Lake City, and I have a new crew neck. This is day one of the jet set with Dan Martell in the books, and honestly, this was an incredible day. I went in with half expectations, half no expectations. No expectations being you can't really plan this type of day out, so you don't want to have too much expectation because then you're typically let down, because happiness is just the delta between what you expect and what actually happens. So if we keep expectations low, then we'll naturally be happy. So there's always a side of me that's like, let's just not have any expectations. But there also was a side of me that was like, hey, there is an intention that's set out that we want to accomplish on this trip. And I'll read out what I have right here in my notes, because I'm basically putting together all of my intel from the day. My intention, one, build a good relationship with Dan and segue back into being on all of the elite coaching calls. Wanted to get close with Sam and pick his brain. Sam Gaudet is Dan Martell's creative director. Been with him for 8 years, and dude's a fucking savage. Build good relationships and be of value to the other guests on the jet set. I put on the intention list, get sick photos for IG. Definitely got that. And then also was wondering where would I find this strategist that I want to hire? And the other one was asking Sam about his research process, as one of our bottlenecks is finding ideas for clients. So those were the 6 bullet points that I put on my intention list, and I literally accomplished all of those today. So overall, big thumbs up. I got to give Dan his present that we got. I think I was showing it on a previous video, but basically in all of his keynotes and podcasts, he will often talk about the yellow book that he found when he was in prison at age 17, that allowed him to find coding and then ultimately change his life. My EA and I tracked down the actual copy of the book and got it hardcover bound. The book cover got changed to be a yellow one, so gave that to Dan today, and I think he actually liked it. I tried to put my senses on of is this gonna be oh wow dude, no way kind of thing, or if it was actually real, and I think he actually did appreciate it. So that was really cool. Got to pick his brain a ton in 2 separate sessions. So basically the way the jet set was structured is there's 4 guests and 4 of Dan's team members that are on the plane as well. So we'd rotate. Basically Dan and his videographer would sit in one section, and then 2 of the guests would be in that section. And then Sam and Dan's EA would be in the other section, and then the other 2 guests would be in that section, and then halfway through the flight, we would swap. So you'd get time with Dan and time with Sam. Everyone was super excited to meet Dan. Of course I was excited to meet Dan, dude's a fucking legend, but I was honestly more excited to just absolutely interrogate Sam, his creative director, with questions, and I think we got along pretty well. I was able to give a little bit of value on content and how we think through formats and topics, etc. But I was absolutely annihilating the dude with questions. I told one of the other guests before we got on the plane, I was like, Sam and I are either going to be boys afterwards, or this dude's going to fucking hate me because I'm just asking so many questions, and I ended up learning a ton. So one of the big things structurally about the business that I got, and this could I was talking with Sam after we talked for 30 minutes at the beginning, and I was like, dude, this could be a total ROI of the entire trip, just you giving me this one insight, which was basically, I was asking him hey, where do we find a strategist that can do my job of assigning ideas to a script writer to then write the script, to then send it into the client, to then have the client film it, etc., which the ideas portion takes a lot of the time on my end. And he was like, dude, why don't you have it be structured to where there are 5 creative directors across 20 clients, and each creative director can handle 4 clients, and that creative director comes up with the ideas, analyzes the research, perhaps even writes the scripts, is on Zoom with the client while the client's filming, is in contact with the client, is effectively customer success, interviews the clients and reviews the videos and posts on social media. To give a creative director that's just running 4 or 5 client accounts, I was like, I don't know if that'd be the exact structure, but that's definitely in a really strong direction, and we can mix and match where scriptwriters live, where editors live, what the actual structure ends up looking like. But I was like, that's a really strong model as opposed to what we're doing. So that one's gonna be a really good one to bring up and discuss at our EOS meeting that's happening in a week and a half, because that's a pretty big change structurally, and I want to make sure that we do it the right way. But it makes total sense. So that was a really big overarching thing. What I am gonna do as well is create a YouTube video for my personal page. Basically, like, I spent 3 days with Dan Martell, this is what I learned kind of video. And I think it would be really good because I have pages and pages and pages of notes. I basically have, these are all the notes I took when I was with Sam. And then these were all the notes I took when I was with Dan, and then I've got the notes on the iPad over there too. So, and then I've got basically 3 tasks to complete tomorrow. Dan was tweaking up the offer that we have a little bit, which I think was really good. So I'm gonna finalize that offer tomorrow morning because we don't have anything to do until 10 with the group. So I'm gonna finalize that offer in the morning and share like the 1-pager / elevator pitch / like textable offer with Dan so he can review it and see what he thinks. Also had an opportunity to write some scripts for Dan's page and give them to Sam. So I'm gonna write those tomorrow morning. And then also just organizing all of the questions that we have that I want to ask Sam and Dan on our last day. Because tomorrow we're not gonna have a ton of time with the group. Basically, the main portion of time that we get with Dan and the team are on the actual plane. So like when we're here in the city, we're kind of just like hanging out and chilling by ourselves, which is it's not bad. The expectation was that we'll be with them on the plane, but it's like we want to come prepared on those flights because you do only get a limited amount of time. But overall, took away a ton of value. That was just like scratching the surface of what I was able to take away. I got a YouTube framework for scripting videos that I'm going to send into our clients that we're doing YouTube for. Sam went over his ideation Rolodex. We're building out the creative director role. He connected me to a couple of his agency owner buddies, and then just got a ton from Dan too. So I'm going to be going through all of these, turn it into a YouTube video / presentation that we'll end up going through over the next couple weeks because we've got a fucking ridiculous next couple weeks of travel. So I'm going to try and get a little bit of sleep right now. It's 10 p.m. We're set to wake up at 5. Yep, set to wake up at 5 tomorrow and go for our run since we don't have anything till 7. And then it will also give us 2.5 hours to work in the morning. So I am going to hit the hay and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.